Welcome back to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen along with Michael Doherty, and we're talking about enabling. We're actually talking about substance abuse and enabling and all kinds of stuff. And Mike, before we went on break, we were talking about the victim.
The victim.
The victim. You already did two others. What did you deal with?
We're talking about provoker.
The provoker.
The rescuer.
The rescuer. And now we're
victim.
talking about the victim.
They just don't understand why their teen doesn't appreciate everything they've done for them.
Did you ever meet anybody that just blames everything on everyone?
Yes, every day where I work. And I'm not talking about my coworkers. I'm talking about the patients in the behavioral health
It's my
unit.
wife's fault. It's my husband's fault. My mother's fault.
Yeah.
It's my kid's fault. It's everybody's fault.
Yeah. And you hear it too.
Uh-huh.
You hear it in the BHU, and you probably...
I was talking to a mom today on on one of our units, and the lady said, "You know what? All I do is stay home. I don't want, everywhere I go, I feel like I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, I'm not needed, so I stay home." How sad is that?
Pretty sad.
Exactly. But
that's an easy one to fix.
But you know what? It's a comfortable place. And I was talking to the lady. It's a comfortable place because now, okay, it's the whole world's fault.
Yeah.
It's not you don't have to look at yourself.
That's right.
You just got to blame everything on everybody else and kind of lay in bed and not worry about it.
Yeah. Well, we also see that in our behavioral health units.
That's where exactly
Yes.
where.
That's where they wanted to stay in their bed.
And that's where they want to stay. But you know what? They're really, in this world, the way I look at it, there really aren't victims. I mean, there are to situations, but when we decide we want to stay in the pain, we're not a victim anymore. Now we're a volunteer. So we need to get up and live and get out of the blame game stuff. You know what I mean? And move on and learn how to forgive.
100%.
So, yeah. So.
You have choices to make.
Right.
It's the same thing we talk about all the time with people that get themselves involved with drugs. I mean, yes, there's peer pressure. Yes, they're doing this or doing that. But they still have the ability to say no.
They still do. That's exactly right. And but there is people that are, clinically depressed. And if you're into that thing and you're a victim and you can't get out of the house and you're really clinically depressed, then you really need to take a look at what's going on with you and maybe seek some medical attention.
Right. Because they self-medicate. That's
because
true.
They self-medicate, or they're so messed up that they just can't get out of it. So there are different ways of dealing with that today. Therapy is great. Sometimes you need therapy and meds. Meds are great. Sometimes you need meds and therapy. Yeah. So there's a combination of stuff that you can do.
You want to give out the phone number again? We have somebody on the line because you gave it out once before.
That's right. So yeah, the line is 661-298-5487. We're talking about enabling. Or substance abuse. Let's see where this is. Let's just put our headphones on and go with it. So I'm going to put my little headphones on and I'm going to say, welcome to KHTS.
Hi, Cary. This is Stephanie Weiss. How are
Stephanie
you?
Weiss, Mike.
Calling all the way from Texas.
One of our favorite call-ins.
That's right. I'm jealous. She's down there with all that good Texas barbecue.
I'm telling you.
I am down here with all that good Texas barbecue. Trust me, I am.
What's going on, Steph?
Well, you know what, Cary? I've spent 16 years hanging around Action one way or the other, going from, somebody who came to the Parent Teen Support Group program to somebody who helped you run the program to someone who went and back to school and got a certified addiction specialist credential. And
you did.
Somebody who has an addict in my life.
You do.
And enabling is one of my favorite topics.
Uh-oh. Why?
Because as much as we think we don't do, many of us do. Enabling is a behavior that's born out of instinct for love.
Right.
And it's actually pretty easy to do, isn't it, Stephanie?
To help somebody.
Pretty easy to do, actually, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what, and it is for all of us, when I'm in a room and somebody that I care very much for is hurting, the first thing I want to do is rescue. Right. I want to run over and give them a hug and say it's okay, but sometimes that might not be the right thing to do.
Yeah, we kill our addicts and alcoholics. Those that we love most, we kill them by enabling. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And Stephanie, I just want to, just based on what you just said, I have to say that the parents of young Ethan Couch are just very fortunate that he wasn't one of the ones that was killed. Not that it makes it any better, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And because of their enabling, or in large part.
In large part.
That same kid that committed that travesty here in Texas, and I don't care, it could be any town in USA. It's happened in Santa Clarita. It's happened in other places. That same kid was given a going-away party before they ran to Mexico on the run so she could enable him. And they showed a video that's gone viral all over the United States, but multi-viral here in Texas, of him having a going-away party where they were all drunk again.
Right.
So it's like they didn't get it.
And
well, people don't change till when? People don't change till they have to.
Till the consequences outweigh
the fun they think they're having or the payoff they think they're having. Problem with this kid is the consequence was horrible. He crashed a car and took a bunch of lives, But he didn't go to jail. He got probation. So once again, in his mind, he got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why not run away? Because if you keep doing things over and over and over again, and you keep getting away with it, why stop?
Right.
Well, the problem is when we rescue our addicts and alcoholics, we're actually trying to fix a problem, and we're denying ourselves that it exists.
Right. Well, and a lot of times parents do that because they're too afraid to deal with it. They just don't know what to do. So they figure if I just ignore it, if I just kind of help them out a little bit, it'll go away.
Or the favorite words we used to hear at a parent-teen support group after drug testing, oh, thank God it's only pot. I'm glad it wasn't cocaine, or I'm glad that it wasn't methamphetamine or heroin. It's only pot, not a big deal.
It makes me want to throw up. You know what's been happening lately, too? and this happens all the time. I was dealing with this last week. When kids' test came back positive, dirty, so lots of pot, and the mother says, maybe you got the test mixed up. I hear it all the time. My kid said he didn't use. No, we don't mix up tests. Maybe it was somebody else's. Maybe your counselor wrote the name down wrong. I hear that all the time. I hear it all the time.
More time. We'll show you right now.
Yeah, the problem is this kid had, I think, 3 or 4 tests that were dirty. So even if we made a mistake, which we didn't make a mistake 3 or 4 times.
Odds are
it was his, exactly. But parents so much want to believe that it's not their kid, that it's not happening, that they find these wild excuses on why it's dirty. Well, on this one, it's just not my kids.
Yeah.
Huh. How do you like that?
Well, the other behavior is, and it goes along with that rescuing that Mike is talking about, is when we bail loved ones out of legal or financial or any other hard place. They don't have an opportunity to feel the consequences again because we bail them out of those arenas.
And if they don't feel the consequences, horrible things happen later in life. It really does. The more you get away with stuff, the more you expect to get away with stuff and figure out, I can do it. Nothing's going to happen. And then before you know it, they find themselves in a real bad place.
I've got a question. So what's wrong with helping when someone you love is participating in self-destructive behaviors?
Part of the problem is that we almost fall into that same destructive behavior because what we don't understand when we're enabling our loved ones, let's put it this way, addiction is a family disease, and it's called a family disease for a number of reasons, and one of that symptoms of that disease is enabling. And so we fall into destructive behavior. We don't learn how to set boundaries. We don't learn how to take care of ourselves. We don't learn to separate our love from somebody. You can love an addict or an alcoholic. That doesn't mean you have to enable those individuals. You can love your teenager. You don't have to jump in with that destructive behavior. And again, the affluenza teen's mom was a perfect example of somebody who's aided and abetted his destructive behavior and became destructive herself.
Right, and that's the problem. Enabling can make the problem worse, not better.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and this is a perfect example. Now look.
Yeah.
the kid's in big trouble.
You know, Cary, I always remember a time, and this is in the behavioral health unit, where you and I had to go out into the lobby and talk to two women. One of them had the other lady and her son living with him. And you may recall the lady who was the one whose name was on the lease for the apartment was very upset, and she was telling us what the individual was doing, you know, that had been in our unit. They were
Right.
doing all kinds of destructive things, and she said, I've been evicted from my own apartment. And you and I kept saying, well, you can do something about that. And she just absolutely wouldn't hear it.
Right.
But she kept crying and saying, I've been evicted from my own apartment.
Because so many people, Mike, they get so comfortable being the victim, they can't get out of it.
Right.
You know, it's everybody else's fault. Oh my God, poor me. But reality is they're staying in it. Get out of it. So it's terrible because the person that they're enabling isn't going to stop until the consequences outweigh the fun.
Right.
And the person that's enabling, that is being the victim, isn't going to stop until something horrible happens with them. You know, they end up in a psychiatric unit. They end up suicidal. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. Substance abuse, alcohol, you know, sleeping pills and alcohol, whatever the deal is. We see, right? Don't we see it all the time?
Absolutely. And let me ask you a question, Cary. Have you ever seen anyone that repeatedly comes back to your rehab that is looking better every time they come back?
Always. No.
Never.
Every time I walk on psych units and CD place programs all the time, and I look and I always recognize somebody that's been there before, and I just look at them and shake my head, and all they can do is put the head down.
Yeah.
And just say, oh, no, man.
But they're not looking better. They're not getting there.
No, they're not
looking worse every time.
They're not looking better. They're looking worse. People don't keep coming back into rehabs because life's good. You know, they don't keep going to a psych unit because they're better. And the definition of insanity, guys, is what? One of the definitions.
And the same thing over and over and over again with the same results.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the results to be different. How can it be? You know, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and the results don't change, you might need to change what you're doing.
You think.
But people don't. You know, it's like,
Because when people enable, they're still trying to fix and control the problem. They might be trying to do it because, oh, I've got kids in the family and I need to make life better. They might be trying to do it because, well, that person's maybe functional and still my only financial support.
Right.
There could be 101 reasons why they are not willing to set boundaries and let go.
and a lot of times there's lots of reasons. Some are guilt. Maybe there's some behaviors that this person is doing that it has to be challenged within themselves if they take a stand. So there's a lot of different stuff going on, right? In a lot of homes, there's a lot of skeletons.
I remember, this is always an interesting story to me, but my wife and I were actually at a function, and afterwards there was a lady who was talking to someone, and she said, I have an adult son, and all he does is stay down in my basement, smoke marijuana, play video games, watch TV. He won't get a job.
Right.
What am I going to do? And the other person looked at her and said, you're enabling your son. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, what am I going to do? I can't kick him out. And he said, why not?
Exactly. Why not? And by the way, there's an alternative to kicking that kid out. There really is. The alternative is put it on them. You know, I love you, and I'm sure glad you live with me, and you can live with me forever, but you can't live with me if you're smoking weed and playing video games. You got to get up, show up to life, get a job, quit using drugs, and you could stay here forever. Then it's their choice.
Right.
You're not kicking them out. They're making a choice. I'm going to stay high and leave.
Yeah, and there is such a thing as paying for the groceries you eat and for the roof over your head.
Exactly. And you know, it's funny because as parents, we're obligated to do so much more than all the stuff we're saying now. I mean, I was at the rehab Friday. I was doing that news piece, right?
Right.
And one of the clients came up to me, and he says, "How do you keep your beard so nice?" And I looked at him, and the guy was like 40-something years old. I said, 1.5. He said, "What's that?" I said, "That's the trimmer, 1.5."
1.5.
These people, they haven't been taught anything. How do you cook a grilled cheese? Well, hasn't anyone ever taught you? No, my mother always made me dinner. Why is it? I mean, laundry. What do you mean I got to sort the clothing colors? I don't get that. I mean, these are people, these are things that we are teaching adults right now because they've been enabled for everything. You know, how do I make a bed? What do you mean, how do you make a bed? You tuck the sheets in. But we as parents, I mean, because I'm not into making beds and doing laundry for kids most of the time, but so many parents, they do everything. They do the laundry, they make their beds, they do the cooking, you know, you name it. They do the shopping. So then these kids hit whatever age and they decide, okay, I'm going to move out now, and they are ill-equipped. They don't have a clue. They don't know how to do the shopping. They don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know how to pay bills. They don't know how to do laundry. They don't know how to trim their beards. You know, they're lost.
Yeah, they get their paycheck and they go, oh, yay, and they go have a big party, and at the end of the party they go, uh-oh, I can't pay my rent. I can't pay for my breakfast.
Right. So when we talk about enabling, there's so many different ways of enabling people. So these kids, I mean, kids, I got kids that are 50 years old in my rehabs. They're kids. They haven't grown up.
Cary, here are some of them: calling in sick for the addict or alcoholic and lying about their symptoms, calling in sick for your kid who can't get up and go to school.
Oh, yeah.
Accepting the blame for somebody's drinking or their addiction behavior.
Right. Yeah, it's my fault. If I wasn't such a bad person, she wouldn't be drinking. That's kind of crazy, but I hear that. Yeah.
Or at home, you know, if you've got an addict in the family, avoiding talking about that addiction out of fear of their response.
Right.
Bailing them out of jail or paying for their legal fees, you know, whether it's teenagers or in their behavior or whether it's you know, kick it up a notch into that realm of addiction, it's the same thing.
Well, how does people change? By feelings, by dealing with feelings. When I'm running a group and somebody falls apart and starts crying and they're right in the midst of feeling, the worst thing I can do is go rescue that person right at that moment. Bring them tissue paper and that kind of stuff. Let them sit in it for a minute. Let them cry. Let them feel what's going on. Let them hurt. Let them remember the pain so they don't have to feel it anymore. If I rescue them and don't let them feel it, it's gonna continue.
That's a good point.
And you know how we do that, Cary? We tell people that we're so disrespectful of people's feelings, whether it's our teens trying to tell us how they feel or in that treatment setting that you're talking about, where there's a discussion that's talked about and the feelings come. We tend to tell people by our verbal and nonverbal reactions that they don't really feel that way.
Right.
And 9 out of 10 times, parents will say to your kid, oh, you don't mean that, oh, you don't feel like that, or that's not true, and we don't hear them out from that feeling perspective.
Yeah, we discount their feelings, which means really at the end of the day, we're discounting them as a person. We really are. These are real feelings. We need to allow people to feel their feelings. That doesn't mean we need to allow people to stay in crisis, but we need to allow people to deal with their feelings.
And wouldn't they be a little bit better equipped to do that if they were actually communicating in their family? In other words, put down those cell phones. Let's talk over dinner. Let's communicate. Let's get to know one another a little bit.
That's right.
Suddenly, you find out you have a problem. You haven't been connecting the dots, and you find out that your daughter or son is into drugs. You haven't been doing anything but playing with your cell phone and not paying any attention to them.
Well, we're not allowed to smoke in restaurants anymore. Maybe soon, one day, they're going to get tired of cell phones and they're going to ban them.
Wouldn't that be exciting to get a restaurant to do that? To put a sign up that says, out of respect for our families, our customers, and our servers, we ask you to respectfully turn your cell phone off?
Now, I've been in facilities that say that, doctor's offices and dentist office and stuff like that. But imagine if restaurants started doing that.
Actually,
people would have to sit and talk.
I've actually been in a restaurant in Pebble Beach. There's a restaurant that has a sign. I mean, I think it's in the menu even that they say, it's exactly what Stephanie was saying, that's out of respect, please do not use your cell phones here.
All right. Oh, I wonder why they say it in the movie theaters.
Oh, brother, they turn that thing on and it glares in your eyes and you're trying to watch the movie. I mean,
But Cary, people respect that at a movie theater, so why wouldn't they respect it in a restaurant? Maybe we were going to start a new trend here.
I think that people would respect that, and I think that people would actually really have a more pleasant, enjoyable dinner. Definitely a more pleasant, enjoyable family dinner. Well, maybe, depending on what's going on.
what they're talking about, right? Could be.
It could be, but if it's a war, maybe they shouldn't go to this.
Hey, Stephanie, Cary's not carrying his cell phone around as much. He's got one of those watches.
Aha, I do, and I'll tell you what, it's pretty easy to do business with this thing. That's for sure. But I can't hide it if I'm starting to play with it. People
are wondering why he's talking to his wrist.
Yeah, they pick up on it pretty quickly.
Dick Tracy.
Amazing how, but that's really, if you think about it, it's amazing how far technology has come. And I tell you, in a lot of ways, it's wonderful.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, it's tragic.
Well, you can use it for good or for not so good.
Yeah, I think there's definitely more benefits, but we sure are paying a price for those benefits.
That's true. It's no different than television. I mean, television is a wonderful medium, but not if you sit around and do nothing but watch television all day.
Right. But then, you know what? We can change that in our homes.
Sure can.
We can say at dinner time, no phones.
Right.
We could say if we're going to go on an outing, let's not answer text, check our Facebooks and that kind of stuff. Let's keep our phones in our pocket. Everybody can put their phone away for an hour.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody can.
That's easy.
The world won't collapse.
Not at all.
No. Hey, Justin's saying something.
It's time for that thing again.
It's time for that break?
Yeah.
Steph, you going to hang with us?
Sure.
This is Families in Action on your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Families in Action with your host, Cary Quashen, here on KHTS, AM 1220, your hometown station. Cary, we have a guest on the phone.
We do.
All the way from Texas.
Texas. Barbecue. That's all I think about. You know what I think about when I think about Texas?
What's that?
3 things.
What's that?
Cowboy boots,
Yeah,
barbecue,
that's one.
and Stephanie Weiss.
Ah, yeehaw.
Yeehaw. That's it. Oh, yeah, and the rodeo. I guess 4.
Hey, you can take the girl out of Santa Clarita, but you can't take Santa Clarita out of the girl.
I could see that. We just, she's still with us, isn't she, Mike?
That's right.
Very cool.
And she's an enabler.
Is she?
Yeah, we're doing an intervention
I don't
here.
I don't think
No.
she's an enabler.
She said she was.
She said that.
No, I've learned a lot about enabling. I've learned a lot in many ways in our own personal household. I've learned a lot by watching, parents and teens. I've learned to watch a lot by sitting in a treatment center helping run family groups. I've learned a lot about enabling. And I think the truth is, guys, to a certain extent, we all have that tendency because it's human to want to love somebody. But the problem is, it's very confusing. If you give somebody money and when they're in their state of addiction, or a kid who's in a place where he ought not to be, or giving a car to someone who's drinking or using drugs, we know that's foolish. But if you give a ride to a child who wants to buy drugs, that's as equally downright stupid.
Well, if you're walking down the street and you see an alcoholic and the alcoholic's asking for a few dollars, and this happened to me, I'm going to a market or a liquor store or 7-Eleven and somebody says, hey, buy me a beer. I mean, you're not going to do that.
No.
Why would you give your kid money to do that? In fact, if I see someone on the street that's really hurting, I might buy him a burger. But I'm sure not going to buy him a bottle of tequila. So why give your kids money when you know they're going to use it for drugs? Why not just do something different? Take them to dinner or whatever it is. Or what do you need the money for? You need a pair of jeans? Let's go to J.C. Penney's or Macy's or Sears or whatever it is. I'll buy you a pair of jeans.
There you go.
Or you're hungry? Well, how about some things from McDonald's? There's things you can do that you don't have to give money thinking, oh my God, this kid's going to go out there and kill himself with this. So there's a whole bunch of ways to be able to help out. We're not telling you we don't want you to help your kids or your loved ones. I mean, everybody enables, right? We all do it.
Well, I can tell you, Stephanie's enabled you for years.
I know she has. but there's a difference between enabling and enabling.
Yeah.
And so we got to really take a look at what we're doing and why we're doing it, what the reasons and the payoffs are. If we really take a peek at the payoffs, usually if it's negative, we know that.
Yeah, and let me just throw this out, because I know there's some listeners out there saying, "Okay, I need some help with this. I just don't think I can do it myself." They could call Action, couldn't they?
Yeah, they can always call.
What's your phone number there?
It's 800-367-8336.
Once again?
800-367-8336. And there's lots of groups and support systems out there that you can do.
Or if you're really dealing with tough stuff with your kids, the Parent Teen Support Group is not just for kids dealing with drugs and alcohol.
Right.
It's for parents dealing with all sorts of kid issues.
Right. And if you're an adult, if you have an adult and they're in trouble, a husband, wife, adult son or daughter, I mean, there's Action. There's also Al-Anon and Nar-Anon and all kinds of other programs out there. A lot of the churches up here have nice, really good groups.
Good stuff.
Grace Baptist does. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there for you that you don't have to do this alone. Because doing some of this alone is a pretty frightening, scary, lonely place to be.
And Cary, we're not just talking about enabling your child. We're also talking, you can enable your spouse, you can enable your partner. So it's adults enabling adults, and that's a problem. It's every bit as bad of a problem as what we've been talking about with teens.
Yeah.
Well, and with anybody, how do you stop enabling, which is what you asked, Mike. And one is you make clear rules, no matter who it is.
There you go.
And you evaluate your own reasons on why you're doing it. You have to sometimes take a deep look inside within yourself and figure out, why am I doing this? I know this isn't
right. And if rules are violated, you encourage consequences, and you give consequences that you can enforce. If you tell your kid you're going to do something, you better follow through.
That's a
And
fact.
if you tell a loved one you're leaving because of their addiction, don't say that unless you mean it.
Yeah, don't make false promises that you can't live up to. Don't make threats you can't follow through. And hey, Stephanie, you're in Texas. We want you to have some barbecue on us. Hit a rodeo and buy a pair of cowboy boots, and we love you. Thanks for calling in. And hey, Mike, it's time.
It is.
This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Till next week.